Hello and welcome to the Truehope podcast, where we take a deep dive into mental health's many physiological and psychological aspects. This is the show for you if you're looking for motivation, inspiration, knowledge, and solutions, and that's what we're all about here at Truehope Canada. Truehope Canada is a mind and body-based supplement company dedicated first and foremost to promoting brain and body health through non-invasive nutritional means. For more information about us, you can visit truehopecanada.com. Today, I welcome Dr. Cali Estes to the podcast. Now, Dr. Cali, the addictions coach, is a highly sought-after addiction professional, life coach, recovery coach, performance coach, and wellness guru who blends talk therapy with positive change to assist her clients in unlocking their true potential. She has been featured in books, magazines, radio, and television for her work in the drug addiction and transformational coaching fields. She is a 5 times best-selling author, founder of the largest addiction and mental health education school online, founder of Sober on Demand, and host of the wildly popular UnPause Your Life podcast. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about how to tackle addiction and mental health in 2024. Enjoy the show. Hello, Dr. Cali. How are you? Welcome to Truehope Cast. It's wonderful to have you here. What's new and what's good?
Thank you for inviting me. I know it's early for you, so I appreciate that, and I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're going to be discussing how to tackle addiction and mental health in 2024. We're coming to the end of it, but before we jump into that, would you mind just giving us a brief introduction about who you are and what it is that you do?
Sure. So I'm Dr. Cali Estes. I run and I founded a signature program called Sober on Demand, where we bring the entire treatment team to the client. So the doctor, the nurse, the sober companions, the therapist, the entire team goes to the client wherever they are, home, office, tour bus, on set, and we help get them sober. And then after doing this for, 30 some years, I got asked, how do you get involved? How do you do this type of work? And I created the Addictions Academy. So we actually have a whole school to train people in how to do sober companion, sober coach, recovery coach, trauma coach, counselor, all of these things. So that's what I do.
Very cool. So just an addiction companion. So can you explain to me, what's the most common individual that will come and take your course?
Anybody who wants to help. Maybe they don't want to be a therapist and go get their bachelor's and their master's and then go through the accreditation process and have to be stuck in an office, for example. Maybe they want to work in the field. They want to go to the client's home, the office, go to the park, go to the beach, go to the gym, and help them get sober. So it's a fun job that doesn't have all the rules and regulations of, say, a therapist that they would. Plus, you don't need the bachelor's and the master's. So those are the people that come to us. Most are in recovery. They've got some clean time, usually 5+ years, and they're looking to give back and help.
Amazing. So is there lots of people who come in to say, if my partner is struggling with some kind of addiction, they come in and learn how to become, not just a supportive partner, but somebody with actually a very specific skill set to help through that time?
Exactly. Yeah. So if you're a partner of an addict, or maybe you're a parent of an addict, a lot of people will come in and say, help me through this period of time. What do I do? What are the resources I need to help my person, to help my loved one? So we help find them resources. We help get them coaches and therapists and such. And then a lot of those people come back and say, well, I want to learn how to do this. I want to help other people, because there's a lack of resources. A lot of people turn to Google and they say, okay, my child's using drugs. What do I do? And
Yeah.
you have all these paid sponsored ads that pop up that'll say, come to this treatment center, or come here, or go there. And you're navigating a world you don't know. And you don't know if these places are any good. You don't know if the therapy is any good. You don't know how much it costs. And sometimes parents they just grab the first one and go, okay, I'm going to send Becky here. And that first grouping of people says, well, send us $20,000 on a wire and we'll, put Becky in this treatment program. Well, we don't know how good it is. So we
Mhm.
help you navigate that entire world that's new to you to find the correct resources that you need for your loved one or for
Amazing.
yourself. Mhm.
Yeah. Um, and how long have you been working with addiction? And how long has this program, this course, been available?
So I've been in addiction 33 years. I'm in recovery myself. I have my PhD in clinical psychology, and I created the Addictions Academy in 2014 because there was not a good standard of resources or wraparound services, if you will. So you
Okay.
could send somebody to treatment, But what happens when they come out 30 days later? The parents don't know what to do, the spouse doesn't know what to do, and everybody expects this person is cured, and
Hmm.
they're not. And they end up relapsing, and a lot of people say, "Well, I don't know what happened. What went wrong?" Because there's no wraparound services. So the Addictions Academy became those wraparound services. We have a family coach, we have recovery coaches, we have sober companions, we have addiction coaches, trauma coaches, mental health coaches, sex addiction, shopping addiction, you name it, we have it. And we work with somebody in real time to help them conquer what their stopping blocks are, to combat the addiction and to break through and figure out who they are and where they want to go in life.
Amazing. What have you what have you learned about addiction from your personal life and now as an educator? Like what have you taken from that personal experience into now how you support, coach, and teach?
So for me, when I was, I don't want to say diagnosed with an addiction, but when I figured it out, like, hey, there's something wrong here, I realized there was a lack of help other than NA and AA and OA. So I was given these pamphlets to go to meetings, and that didn't fit with me. It didn't work because my addictions were sugar, caffeine, and diet pills. And when you go to NA, they have sugar, caffeine, and cigarettes. And I'm like, these are my addictions. So it didn't work.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I ended up getting sober on a yoga mat. A friend of mine drugged me to her yoga class and she said, just do this. And I was like, whatever, sure. And I did. And when it started to work and I learned to manage my emotions and I started to heal, that's what got me into this industry. And I said, if I struggled with this, there's a lot of people struggling with this too. What else is available? So I've been doing this type of work for 33 years roughly. And then I wanted to create that alternative reality of what else can we do to help the people that are that need it.
What was it about yoga that helped you?
Learning how to manage my emotions, doing the sun salutations when you're doing the deep breathing and you're doing the movement. So the first thing the instructor had me do was do one sun salutation, which takes maybe a minute ish. And I did it and I was grumbling the whole time. I couldn't touch my toes. This is stupid. And he goes, okay, good. Do a second one. And I'm like, I'm out of breath, right? Do a second one. So I did a second one. I'm still grumbling. This is stupid. Do a third one. By the third one, I couldn't breathe. So now I'm not complaining. I'm focusing on that dying, which was a different focus. And then he said, every time you want to get high or every time you want to eat, do a sun salutation. And I thought, that's stupid, but I did it. And it gave me just enough window to go, oh, I don't want that thing. And then he taught me about dopamine. And he said, homeostasis is here. When you eat sugar or take a diet pill, your body goes up here, your dopamine goes up. What also goes up in exercise. So if you're exercising, suddenly all those happy chemicals flood the brain. You don't want that substance. And I went, oh. So now I started using that trick. So if I'm in Target and I'm frustrated, I just do 10 squats. I'm the crazy lady in Target doing 10 squats.
Love that.
What does that do? It boosts your dopamine. You can't be happy and anxious at the same time. You can't be happy and depressed at the same time. So if you get that dopamine up, you won't want that drug or alcohol. And that's what started to happen naturally. And as that happened, I learned new coping skills and ways of dealing with all the feelings that come up when you want to grab that drug or that alcohol. And over time, I didn't want it. And I went, if this works for me, this works for a lot of other people. So we started looking at dopamine and ways to boost that natural happy chemical as opposed to grabbing the donut or the cocaine or the alcohol.
When I started doing yoga, I was in my very early 30s, and it was one of the first times that I was really connecting my body and my mind in a very practical way. Like I would do very slow, very deliberate yin yoga to begin with, and it brings up a lot for you psychologically when you are working with your body and you are making quite conscious, deliberate movements. And I wonder, like, as you mentioned that yoga allowed you to become probably more aware of your emotions and then like learning how to deal with them. Was that a similar kind of experience for you when you kind of got down there on the mat?
Exactly. And for me, the hatha yoga or the yin yoga that you were looking at, I couldn't do because I have ADD. So
Mhm.
I would sit for 30 seconds with my legs crossed and I'm looking out the window and I'm working around. And I'm like, okay, I can't do this. So my instructor said, you need to be in Ashtanga yoga, which is power yoga, where
Mhm.
you're constantly in motion. And that started to work because now I'm in motion and now I'm focusing on my breath work. And then he would add in, if you're angry, get rid of your anger, breathe out your anger, breathe in Zen. So he would add that in as a moving meditation. So I learned quickly on that I've got to be in moving meditation. I can't sit still to meditate.
Mhm.
So a lot of my clients are very similar. So we do a moving meditation or we do um, different types of walking, or what do they call it, forest bathing, but basically going out in nature and reconnecting where you're in motion
Mhm.
and you're using that same breath work.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think that yoga and yeah, forest bathing or just being in nature is such obviously it's a very powerful thing to do, but it's often very difficult to get somebody to do something that's so simple, so profound, and something that they probably know that they might need in their life. But yeah, the excuses that come up for a lot of people to like not actually go out and do something like that, I'm sure you've heard it all.
Yeah. And I tell my clients, if you don't have time in between what you're doing, stand up and do 20 squats.
Hmm.
That's all you have to do. And if you're sitting at your desk, I have two desks that rise up. So if I'm teaching or I'm doing email throughout the day, I'll rise my desk up and I'll just be standing as
Yeah,
opposed to seated. And now I'm sort of in that moving meditation as opposed to, sitting here getting frustrated.
sure. Yeah, I think that yeah, with the movement piece, with the exercise piece, putting your awareness and your focus on something very different to the habitual addictive nature, you're engaging different parts of your brain, and you're engaging that those areas that yeah, like as you said with the dopamine release, like you are engaging similar pathways, but obviously there is only amazing benefits to moving your body and doing squats or going for a run or like going for a walk in nature. Like it's incredible that we have these very free available tools to us, but as you say, like a lot of people just go onto Google and they're looking for that kind of that thing, that place, that drug that's just going to take care of their problems, rather than like sitting back, recognizing we have these very simple fundamental things available to us kind of all of the time, and we don't necessarily reach to them. So I want to ask you about your, so you've 33 years. It's a long time in the addiction mental health space, and I wonder, have you seen any particular patterns? Like, we're in 2024 right now. I don't think anxiety and depression and mental health issues have ever been like this bad, especially with younger individuals. Have you seen any particular patterns emerge in those 33 years looking at it today?
Well, ever since COVID, it has been probably triple what it's always been. So a lot of people, when COVID shut down, they maybe weren't alcoholics or they didn't use pills to cope, but now they're sitting at home. They're bored. They really can't go out. They can't socialize. They're not going out with friends. They're not going to the gym. They're not doing their normal routine. So they started drinking or taking marijuana or taking some drugs. So we've actually seen addiction go up since COVID. And a lot of people, when the doors basically reopened and said, okay, go back out there, they kind of went, uh-oh, I got a problem.
Right.
So we've gotten a lot of that. In terms of the younger generation, they don't communicate. So they use their phone for everything. So instead of a phone call, they would rather send a text or they're FaceTiming each other. The new trend that they're doing is that they're FaceTiming while they're sleeping. So their phone is always on next to their head, and there are three, four, five of them are all sleeping kind of together. So if one wakes up and talks, kind of wakes up the other one. So they're not getting any REM sleep.
That's, sorry,
And
hold on. That's a thing.
that's a thing.
That's got to have a name. That's got to have a weird teenage name to it.
There's probably some pop name they came up with because they come up with a name for everything, even the stuff that we used to do. Like they're calling sitting on an airplane, like not drinking, not watching TV is called dry dogging now. And I'm like,
That's right.
we've sat on an airplane for years not doing this stuff. Like this is not even they're just making up names.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's a thing. And then they're throughout the day, they can't stay awake in school. So their grades are dropping. And a lot of kids are dropping out of school because they can't keep the grades up because they
Mhm.
can't stay awake. So I'm seeing a lot of that. We see a lot of failure to launch in the younger kids where they don't want to work because you see these influencers making $100,000, $200,000, a year, posting videos or reviewing a product, and they're thinking, I don't want to go to McDonald's and make $18. That's beneath me. So they just don't want to go to work.
Yeah.
They don't want to go to school. They don't want to go to work.
Yeah, it's a very, very tricky, difficult landscape. And yeah, of course, like the pandemic with, shutting people in their own homes and, arresting people who are on the beach on their own looking to go surfing or something like that.
Hmm.
It was a very, very unfamiliar, wild time, and obviously a very scary, scary time for a lot of people. I think that a lot of people are still suffering the anxiety of that whole ordeal.
Yeah.
And for young people, let's just say 18 and under, who don't have a fully developed neurological system yet, to actually have that as like 2-3 years of their existence, of their development, I just wonder like how underdeveloped these young people are. And I see the patterns with the problems we have in the mental health space with kids and with adults now, with that shutting down from other people, that lack of community, and
Hmm.
seeing not necessarily just seeing friends or golf buddies or pickleball buddies or whatever, but like actually just seeing other human beings walking around. Like we've been engaging with human beings obviously forever, and I think that if you were to just take that away, and we've just got the walls of our house, and we've got these screens, and we've got these distractive substances, we get so far away from how we've been built to be in the world, that our biology just doesn't know how to deal with it, and it's still struggling.
That's correct, because the opposite of addiction is connection.
Mm,
So when you become an addict, you isolate. You take drugs, you take alcohol, you get away from people. But if you're taking drugs and alcohol around sober people, they're going to pull you out of that. They're going
yeah.
to say, this is not okay. This is what you need. So when everything shut down, you didn't have that. Everyone was, oh, fend for myself and take care of my family and, close it down and just be. Well, that really did some damage to a lot of people. And then, of course, the young people, all they did was stay on their phone. That's how they stayed connected. So they're comfortable now in this digital reality that isn't
Yeah.
real. When they go out in the real world, they don't know how to behave. They don't know how to act. They don't know how to have a conversation. These things have changed. So the anxiety is up, the depression is down. And then the solution is, well, here, take a pill. Take a
Hmm.
pill for that. So if you have anxiety, we're going to put you on Xanax. Well, then you get addicted to Xanax, which is a benzo. It's bad for you. Well, if you're on Xanax and you go out with friends, you have a glass of wine, that's a big no no. Then you get a DUI. Then you're told, oh, well, you're an addict. Well, how am I an addict? I have anxiety. The doctor gave me Xanax. So we're seeing that pattern happen.
Hmm.
And the same thing with I can't focus. I go to school, I can't sit still because I'm used to being on my phone and, this text message and that text message and Snapchat, and I'm doing all these things. And now you want me to sit and focus on one teacher and one board, and they can't do it. So now we give them Adderall. Now you have Adderall. Now you're focused. But Adderall is basically legal methamphetamine. So now what happens if they're on Adderall, say from 8 to 18? Because here, when they turn 18, most doctors are cutting them off. Their brain formed with the Adderall. So
Hmm.
now your brain, which doesn't stop forming till you're 25, has all this chemical in it. And all of a sudden we take it away and we expect you to just exist. They're imploding. They're having breakdowns and mental health breakdowns and depression. And our violence rate is up. We're seeing these young kids, 14, 15, 16, going into schools doing shootings and killing their parents. And people are going, what's wrong?
Yeah.
And I say the same thing every time. What big pharma medication were they on? What were they prescribed? And 9 times out of 10, it comes back with a nice little list of
Hmm.
3 or 4 things they were on. And those side effects are suicidal ideology, homicidal ideology. All of those side effects kick in, and then we see this behavior. And then we all stop back and go, what happened? And here we are.
Yeah, it's doing that kind of whole story. of an individual and going through all of that and coming out the other end, in some cases in prison or dead. There's a lot of there's a lot of people who lose significantly in that whole story. That individual, parents, friends, schools, society in general. But there are some winners in this
Mhm.
story. These pharmaceutical companies that have a responsibility to their shareholders to make money and to get as many of their products into individuals as they can. That they are the big winners in all of this.
Mhm. Yeah, they with the heroin epidemic, they really did a number down here in Florida. They pushed the Oxy and Roxy. So I don't know if your listeners know this, but down here in the States in about 2013, there was a lady who sued the medical board. And she said, I'm in pain, and my doctor would not give me pain management medication, meaning opiates.
Yeah.
So the medical board told all the doctors that a patient's level of pain is what they say it is. Your job is to prescribe pain medication. That's your job. Do your job. If you don't, you will pull your license. So all of a sudden, you could go to the doctor and say, I hurt my elbow, and he would give you 90 oxycodone because that's what he was told to do. So they flooded the market. And of course, if you're an addict, you go, aha, I can go in, I can get these pills, I can do these pills, I can sell these pills, I can do all these things. So all these little pill mills started popping up in Florida, and they called themselves pain management clinics. And you could go in and say, I have anxiety, I have headaches, I have a migraine, and you would be given these prescriptions. So we started to realize it was out of hand. Now you've got all these people doing all these drugs, and the medical board said, enough, this is not good, and then pulled the Oxy and Roxy. So on the black market, you could get it at $3 a pill. Overnight, it became $30 a pill. When that happened, all these addicted people turned to heroin. And that's why you saw this uptake in overdoses. Now you have the street drug dealers going, this is awesome. Now we're selling heroin. How do we make it more potent? We can't get Oxy, we can't get Roxy. Oh, look, there's fentanyl. Now they throw fentanyl in it, and you have an addict going, I want that good high. Well, fentanyl's a good high. So they started using it. But you've got drug dealers that aren't chemists, backyard mixing stuff. So now you have overdosing.
Yeah.
And then you have these drug dealers saying, well, how can we get more people? More, this is a business. How do we get more people? Well, let's put that fentanyl in something else, cocaine. Let's put it in a Percocet, in a Vicodin, because now you're physically addicted. You're starting to detox. So you want more of the drug so you don't have the detox symptoms. So that's sort of what happened down here. And then Big Pharma went, uh-oh, we're losing our market share, right? We can't sell the Roxy. We can't sell the Oxy. Oh, let's throw some Suboxone out there. Now they're selling Suboxone to the same people they sold the Oxy and Roxy to. To your point, that's how it went full circle.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are.
Yeah, it's a wild story. There's some amazing documentaries and some really, really intense dramatizations of those whole events, because it really was like one of the most wildest things we've ever seen in world medical history. Yeah, it's absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's absolutely super fascinating. And as I say, there are losers and winners in these stories, and it's unfortunately those losers are the tragic families of these people who lose their loved ones, and
Yeah.
it's unbelievably sad. But I want to ask you in regards to the conventional treatments for addictions that most people have available to us, or for example, somebody goes to their doctor and they're having an addiction problem. Like, what's the typical route for somebody like that?
So most times you're told to go to therapy or you're told to go to addiction rehab. The problem is addiction rehab is a 95% failure rate. And
Okay.
traditional therapy is years long. And most people don't stick that out. So that's what we're seeing. And the reason that it has such a high fail rate is you're plucked from your environment and you're thrown into a sterile environment. You can't get drugs, you can't get alcohol. What do? You go from group to group to group to group, and you sit in sessions and you listen to people's stories. When you come out, you're dumped right back into your environment.
Mm-hmm.
Now you don't have the therapist that you had if you were having a bad feeling to run into the office to. You're sitting at home going, what do I do? What do I know to do? I get high. So it doesn't work. So what we recommend for people is sober companions. They come, they stay with you, or an in-depth person, maybe a recovery coach, a couple hours a day during those periods of struggle where you need that extra help. So you're in your environment and you have that extra support and that help when those feelings come up and that
Hmm.
stressor comes up. And the person says, this is how we're going to work through it. This is what we're going to do. And you learn over 30 days, because it takes 30 days to make a change in a neural pathway in your brain, you learn new coping mechanisms, you learn new skills. But that takes a 30-day window of repeating the same thing every day to get that new skill.
Yeah, and what you see in movies and what you see in TV is like, these individuals, they go into these settings and it's all awful and difficult, and then they have this transformational change, and then they come out of those 30 days, this all sunshine and roses and everything's absolutely fine, right? I can't imagine that's the reality when you are your environment and your everyday, your every single habit is completely vastly changed, and you go into this, like, as you call, sterile environment, and then you're just thrown back out again into the wild. And if you don't have a treatment team, you don't have these people who are trained, who are close to you, who actually care about you, who are have those responsibilities, then it's inevitable that most people, like 99 out of 100, are going to end up falling back into those similar patterns, because I bet you they've created actual communities surrounding that, like, bad pattern of where they go to get their hit. And yeah, that conventional method, just from not having a whole lot of experience of addiction, it sounds horrific. It doesn't sound helpful.
Well, most people that don't understand addiction, this is the analogy I give. I always say, have you been on a diet? And most people, at least one time in their life, went on a diet, right? And I say, what did you do? You woke up on a Monday morning and you said, I'm going on a diet. How long is the diet? It's
Hmm.
30 days, isn't it? Right? So Monday morning, you said, I'm not going to eat sugar, processed foods, anything. I'm going to have yogurt for breakfast, a salad for lunch. I'm going to have, chicken and vegetables for dinner. And day one, you do it. Day two, you do it, right? With day three, you go to work and they have pizza for lunch. What happens on day three? You're sitting there going, God, I would love pizza. It smells good, looks good. I miss pizza, right? So by dinner time, you're frustrated because that pizza's still in your head, it just keeps popping up. And there's your chicken and your vegetables. And your husband or wife says, I'm tired of eating that. I'm going to order Chinese food. And you're sitting
Hmm.
there going, oh, Chinese food. I miss Chinese food. God, that smells so good, right? By Thursday or Friday, you've fallen off the wagon now. You have had a donut, you've had probably a Starbucks, Frappuccino, and then you get a case of the F-its, which is, I screwed up. I'm going to eat whatever I want, right? So by Friday, you're eating whatever you want. Then you go in your head, you go, I'm going to start my diet on Monday. I'm going to start again on Monday. And you have this pattern, right? Then when you're driving in the car, you see a billboard and you go, oh, Taco Bell. I miss Taco Bell. Dairy Queen. I want ice cream.
Hmm.
You start to see this. And what happens? You go right back into your old pattern. And then you say to yourself, I got to go back on a diet. So this becomes your pattern. And people go, yeah, that's me. That's me. That's the same thing with drugs or alcohol. You may have that 30 days clean because you went somewhere, like a vacation. Maybe you went to a retreat, but you're back in that environment and all those billboards are coming at you. Everybody's got something you want. They're talking
Hmm.
about it, they have it. And then your brain starts to obsess. Why can't I have that? Why
Hmm.
can't I do that? I'll just have one. I'll just have one. And then you have one, and then you're off the rails. So, people that don't understand addiction, I say, you never have one potato chip, do you? And you don't get a pint of ice cream and have one teaspoon and
Hmm.
put it back, do you? No. So, it's the same exact thing. It's just a different substance.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can actually, if they sit back, they can certainly relate to the habitual nature of addiction, be that with sugar or alcohol or many of these drugs that are, deemed to be absolutely okay and fine in our society, but are causing absolute havoc, especially sugar, obviously, with obesity and preventable diseases. And it's just, yeah, it's absolutely insane, the damage that sugar does, and it's absolutely in everything. And yeah, you're talking about those those signs of the Dairy Queen and Taco Bell that are very uniquely and specifically placed. They use very unique, specific colors and music and
Mm-hmm.
all these things to grab your attention, to lead you there. And I think what's interesting about the whole diet thing is, like, when people go away on vacation to to Hawaii or to the beach, and they don't eat or drink necessarily perfectly, and they don't come back huge and heavy and feeling awful, they often come back feeling amazing and great and refreshed. I feel that is a good point in regards like where your nervous system is most of the time doing your like normal
Hmm.
life, quite stressed out, work, kids, all these things going on, and then you throw in sugar and caffeine and alcohol into that environment, your body is significantly going to struggle to deal with that. And then you put yourself in Hawaii on the beach, drinking coconut water and maybe not eating brilliantly, but you come back feeling differently. Your body is in a completely different state in regards to your nervous system's ability to, break down those foods and actually heal and repair you. And I like to use that story, use that idea as you can bring Hawaii to yourself through
Hmm.
practices and through being in nature and through meditation and yoga, etc. You can re-engage your nervous system into a more restful and digestible state. Is that something you've kind of experienced in regards to the forward treatment for supporting people?
Exactly. And a lot of people ask me what I do. How do I keep myself centered and balanced? What's my self care? So, and I teach my clients this. The first thing I do when I get up, I make coffee and I come into my office is I light a candle and I choose what scent I want for that day. Do I want
Mm,
sticky bun or do I want wintergreen or what do I want in my office? And then I sit down to do my work and I'll take breaks. I'll go for a walk in nature. I go to the gym every day, and that's my downtime.
mhm,
And then every night before bed, I take a magnesium bath with essential oils. And again, I pick my flavor. Do I want orange? Do I want menthol? What am I doing? But I have downtime and I have certain recuperating things for me that I schedule in my planner. Because I hear a lot of people say, well, I don't have time for that, but they have time to get their nails done and they have time to run their kid to soccer practice
yeah.
and they have time to watch Netflix for 3 hours. So you're not scheduling you time. And I tell them, you block that off. And when someone says, can you meet for a coffee or can we do this? Nope. From 7 to 8, I am booked. I'm going to the gym or I'm having my bath or I'm
Mm,
whatever it is you're doing. But you book that time in and you treat it as if it really is with someone else or a work event. And once you start doing that, you get in the habit of taking care of yourself, your anxiety and stress goes down. When
mhm.
that's down, your work productivity goes up and your want for substances goes down. Your cortisol has to stay down. The cortisol going up will cause you to want to get high and drink because you're not dropping it naturally. So if you're reaching for a substance to do that, you've got to learn how to drop it naturally, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes absolutely perfect sense. And I think all those things that you're explaining, like what you do in your day, what you recommend to people, all of those things are investment in your future self. Like
Hmm.
you're preparing yourself um, correctly rather than kind of like these impulses we have during the day and then feeding on those. You're making a very deliberate intention when you choose to surround yourself with a specific essential oil. You're taking that magnesium bath to calm your future self down and facilitate good quality sleep. You're putting steps in your present to take care of your future, and that's without question a really important part of what people can do in their busy stressful days, is to take those moments. And it doesn't need to be an hour. It can be 5 minutes. It could be a few minutes. To take a second and to prepare yourself for that day. And yeah, just investing in you. And I think that comes kind of around to what I wanted to talk about next in regards to that personal ownership, that responsibility that we have individually, because nobody else is going to do this for us. I think it's a little, we're talking about most people who are struggling with their very busy days and they don't find the time to take these small steps to take ownership of their own health. And yeah, I'd love it if you could just tell us a little bit more about like how do you feel people can start to take their own personal responsibility.
So the first step is realizing that you are responsible for everything in your environment. You cannot change how you feel about something. So I call it the secret triangle. And I'll just let your listeners know what it is. So you have a circumstance. Let's say you lose your job, right? That you cannot control that circumstance, but you have a feeling, the tip of your triangle. Your feeling is you're frustrated, you're angry, you're upset, right? That's a valid feeling based upon your circumstance.
Hmm.
So a lot of people say, well, change your feeling. Well, no, your feeling's valid. At the bottom part of your triangle is your thought. You can change your thought. You can say, well, I can't believe I got fired. I want to get high. Or I can't believe I got fired. I want to look for a new job. Those are two very different thoughts.
Yeah.
Based upon the thought, you have your action. Here's your accountability. So under action, I can go with either thought. If I want to get high, my action is to get high. Sorry. If I want to find a new job, my action is going to be looking for a new job. So those are my two options. My accountability lies in where my thought goes.
Mm-hmm.
So my outcome changes based upon my action. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So accountability right there changes everything.
Beautiful. With those individuals, let's say somebody's struggling with something a little bit more serious than, let's say, Netflix addiction. Not to say that's not serious for that individual, but like we're talking about, an alcohol addiction, a drug addiction, somebody suffering from that, and those courses that you teach, those people that you train. What are some of the key skills? I want to say as a partner, somebody who's like in the house with that individual. What are some of the like really key skills to help support somebody, let's say after they've had their like 30 days or their initial kind of treatment or therapy?
So what happens is, and I was the partner of an addict as well. My husband passed away about a year ago from complications of long-term drug addiction.
Okay.
So as a spouse or a partner, your first inclination is to be angry and say, well, you're not doing things fast enough. You're not going back to work fast enough. You're not helping me with the kids. You're not cleaning. You're not cooking. So the spouse gets frustrated because that partner's been gone for 30 days
Right.
or only has 30 days clean. Their brain isn't totally there yet. That's the first issue. So they're not thinking clearly. They're still a little foggy. But we also have this unrealistic expectation that they're just going to jump in and everything is going to be fine.
Right.
And that's not real. They're going to still have these issues coming up. So we need to be supportive. We need to say, I love you. Here's what I need. And the dichotomy comes in when our needs as a spouse aren't getting met. And then there's frustration and anger. And then we tend to lash out at the addicted person who then can't handle that stress, who then goes and uses.
Right.
And then as the partner, we go, see, here we are again, and we're creating that. So a lot of partners don't know about that. They don't know what those things are. So we have to teach them those things. And then we have family coaching. So we actually teach the partner how to handle the addict. What do you say? What do you not say? What is your reasonable amount of time before you have this expectation of all these things? And expecting them to come home from a 30-day rehab and go right back to work and help and cook and clean and do all this stuff, it's going to overwhelm them. They're not ready for that yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds like a win-win for the caregiver as well as the individual with addiction, because having those reasonable expectations of that person is going to allow you to set yourself in a particular manner and tone that's going to be able to support that individual to have certain expectations of somebody who is coming back from, a very significant time in their life.
Yeah. And support is key. We tend to want to lash out and say, you've been gone. I've been stressed. I've been doing all this on my own, plus working and paying all the bills.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the stuff I need you to do now that you're back.
Yeah.
And that's a natural reaction because your partner's been busy.
Yeah.
Or if it's your child, you want them to go to school or you want them to go to work. You want them to clean your room, take a shower, do your laundry, all the things that a normal teenager should be doing.
Yeah.
They're not ready for that.
No.
So as a partner, we have to learn space, and we have to learn some of the needs we have aren't going to be met in the immediate, but in the long term, you're going to get your person back. But we have to know how to handle that and how to get there.
Have you seen faith come into this piece for a lot of people on their road to recovery?
Yes. So a lot of people have tried everything. They've tried therapy, coaching, rehab, and they're just like, none of this is working. All I have is faith. All I have is the ability to ask something outside of myself to help me because I can't get this to work.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people reach for that, and it's different, and it's, all they really have, and it works. And they come back and they're like, I got baptized and I went to church and boom, I'm cured. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're not cured. You just have a new coping skill. The thing that I I warn people of is don't trade one addiction for another.
Sure.
Don't start going to a meeting or to church every single time you have a feeling, because that becomes your addiction.
Hmm.
You have to learn how to sit with your feelings and your emotions and use those other things, use church, use your faith as an addition to what you're doing. So bring it in as an extra, not in exchange for what you're addicted to.
Yeah, I can only imagine like going into, a communal situation like church, where you've got a lot of like wonderful individuals who would be open to supporting you and praying for you and being with you. Like that could only, you know, support that individual through what they're going through. I feel like that could be a very positive thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point too, you also have connection, you have fellowship, you have people there to talk to.
Hmm.
There's meetings, there's groups. All of those things are important. And that's what we're missing in addiction is the connection.
Yeah.
We're not connecting to other human beings. We're alone on this island going, no one understands me. But when you meet like-minded individuals and they say, I understand you because I've had that problem,
Yeah.
now you have a commonality.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, there's a big challenge in being in environments where people actually listen to you with, with genuine care and grace, rather than with an agenda or waiting for their turn to speak. I think that's a significantly rare scenario that we unfortunately have in our world today. And when I first began practicing as a nutritionist, my initial consultation was like nearly 2 hours long. And for a lot of people, that was the longest that anybody really sat and listened to them and asked quite detailed, open-ended questions about their personal like circumstances. And for a lot of people, like it was, it's a nutritional consultation, but it ends up being this significantly impactful therapy session where they're able to offload a lot of things and talk through a lot of things and just be actively listened to, rather than being part of just like, I don't know, I want to say normal dialogue where it's like I talk, you talk, I talk, you talk. And sometimes there's not a whole lot of space and substance there.
A lot of times we talk to answer or solve the problem. We
Hmm.
don't talk to listen. So when I'm training a new coach, the first thing I have them do is listen for 5 minutes where they can't speak a word. And the other person complains for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And the coaches get frustrated. They're like, but yeah, yeah, nope, you can't say a word. You got to sit there and listen. And the person talking is like, wow, I talked for 5 minutes and I wasn't interrupted for the first time in my life.
Hmm.
Plus, they're hearing themselves and they're solving some of their problems just by hearing it without being interrupted. So I teach that as an active listening skill. And then we teach the 6 open-ended questions, the what, where, when, why, who, and how. Every question you ask should be open-ended. It should never be did you or do you. It should
Hmm.
always be why did you do that?
Yeah.
How did you feel when you did that? What's your outcome? What's your plan? And when you reframe things like that, it gets people to think. They start thinking, well, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
What am I really getting out of this? Is it worth it?
Yeah, we spoke at the beginning of the show about that lack of communication skills that a lot of people have and a lot of teens are not developing. And being able to actively listen and ask good quality questions is a skill. It's something that you absolutely learn. And yeah, if we're not doing that, then how much quality is really wrapped around the friend circles that we do have? I think that's really interesting. I don't think it was very. I'm very fortunate. Early in my marriage, I realized that when my wife wants to sit down and have like get something off her chest, she does not want me to fix her problems. She just wants me to be there and listen and hold her hand. That's what she wants. That's what she needs in those moments. And if it was a buddy of mine back in the UK and he was talking to me about a problem, he would be like, "Okay, let's sort this out. Let's fix it."
Mhm.
But that's skills that you have to like learn and be open to developing, even at like 30 years old or 40 years old. These things, you never really stop learning these things. And yeah, I'm just it's amazing that we have individuals like you who have schools like yours who are teaching people, but I just honestly wish that we had like more evolved um educational systems that would teach these kids to be able to do this at an early age, because for a lot of people's problems, kids or adults, communication and talking and being with people is very often like the solution. And if you're able to do that kind of early on in the, let's say, stages of it becoming an addiction or a big problem for somebody, then it can really like massively impact years of somebody's life.
Absolutely.
Yes, wild stuff, wild stuff. I wanted to ask you, what's your experience in the role of nutrition when it comes to addiction? We see, so here at Truehope Canada, we're a mind and body based supplement company, and we work with a lot of people who have been on psychotropic medications for sometimes decades, and they've never really resolved their root concerns. But when they start taking good quality supplementation, nutrition, especially our flagship product is a broad spectrum mineral supplement, and our minerals are chelated for 4 days, and the industry standard is 4 hours. So our minerals actually pass through the blood brain barrier and actually impact people's psychology very, very quickly. And we see that people's ability to pick a different path happens very fast when they've actually got adequate amounts of like nutrition coming into their body that their body's been craving for long periods of time. We talked about sugar addiction and alcohol addiction, what that does to like gut integrity, the ability to absorb nutrients. And people become chronically nutrient deficient for years, decades sometimes. And then when we see that's replaced with good quality nutrition, we see impactful changes happen very fast for people's physiological and psychological bodies.
Absolutely. So, a couple things. While you're talking, I'm thinking about I need to use your supplements for my Canadian friends because we have supplements here that we can't cross customs with.
Right.
So, we'll talk later about that. Absolutely. Nutrition is key, and so is supplementation. The first thing we do is a urine and a saliva test to see everything. Where's your cortisol? What are your biomarkers? What is going on in your body that's not getting addressed? Because in traditional addiction medicine, it's talk therapy.
Hmm.
But if you're chemically not correct, you're not going to feel well enough to do talk therapy. And you're going to be reaching for something to feel better. So when we get your gut right, and with us, you stop eating sugar. I know a lot of clients are like, what? We take you off sugar. We try to get you off caffeine, anything that you're on processed food. We want you on good quality nutrition. And then we want to figure out what you're missing in your body, what's
Hmm.
missing. Get the supplementation correct. Now the talk therapy and the coaching so much easier because we're not fighting upstream.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, it's a huge piece. I think there's many pieces to the pie when it comes to somebody's mental health. But as we said before, like the foundations are there, and the foundations to help people get out of a tricky spot are often free and available and accessible to most people. So yeah, it's wonderful that we're able to have this conversation today to shed some light on those addictive struggles that people have. And I feel like we've also discussed how I think a lot of people can relate to somebody who's got like a serious addiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Before we finish off, can you just tell us a little bit about your podcast, Unpause Your Life?
So I have a podcast called UnPause Your Life, and it's for people that have done something extraordinary or overcome something in their life to go on to be better or bigger or conquering the world, whatever they
Hmm.
did. So there's authors on there. There's people that are famous. Jackass is on there. What's the guy from Brandon Novak's on there? Dr. V from her show is on there. Billy Lee, like the first transgender woman, is on there. So it's sort of like if you've done something unique, I'd like to have you on and hear about how you overcame adversity to get there.
Very cool. Very
Mhm.
cool. Well, I'll make sure that that's linked up in the show notes so people can find that. But what's the best place for people to connect with you and learn more about your work?
So I'm at soberondemand.com or theaddictionsacademy.com, or they can just Google Dr. Cali Estes and I'll pop up all over the place. And they can reach out and give us a call. The phone number is 1-800-706-0318, and they'll reach me or my assistant, and we can help them however we can.
Amazing, wonderful. Well, as again, I'll make sure all those links are in the show notes so people can learn more about you and connect with you if they want to, if they need to. But Other than that, thank you so much for coming onto the show today. I feel like we've got many other things that we could be talking about. So if you're into it, we'd love to get you back on the show.
I would love to. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Well, that is it for this episode of True Hope Cast, the official podcast of True Hope Canada. Again, if you want to check out the show notes to connect with Dr. Cali, you can do that. All the links to her social media and website will be on there. You can leave us a review on iTunes if you want and a rating on Spotify. But that is it for this week. We'll see you soon.